Yo guys, what's good? It's Jake, aka Super Unlucky Me. I hope you are all doing well. We are back with episode 2 of Gillingham FC Road to the Promised Land. So in this video, we're basically going to be recapping what we discussed in the first video. If you haven't seen that, make sure to go back and watch that video to get up to speed with kind of going through what the club's about, and getting an idea as to where we're predicted, where we think we're going to finish, and things like that. So today we've had some stuff happen. We have brought in some staff, as we said we would do. We've brought in some players. We've had some big injuries to the team. However, we're going to start with recapping the starting 11 because it has maybe slightly changed. So, as you can see, there's a couple of new names in here. If we just pop Tom O'Connor back in there and Barry Fuller into right back, and we're going to pop Tucker into centre back there. So, the predicted starting 11 as of now has slightly changed. So we now have Jack Bonham in goal, Barry Fuller right back, Max Amar and Jack Tucker the youngster at centre back, with Tom O'Connor at left back. Then at CDM we have Alfie Jones. In the midfield we have O'Keefe and Mark Byrne. And a new face into the team at centre attacking mid we have Angel Gomez on loan from Manchester United. And up front we now have Brandon Hanlon, which was in the starting lineup in the last video. And we also have Unlundulu, who is currently on loan from Southampton. So he joins the Alfie Jones and O'Connor Southampton setup. So that's a quick recap of the starting 11. We're going to move into players that have come into the club and players that have left the club, and also staff and kind of reasons as to why we've made those decisions. And then we're just going to discuss basically the pre-season games. Now, I was going to try and get the highlights of the games into the video, but it didn't really work with the way the video was being recorded. So unfortunately, it's just going to be discussing the stats and the result and whether I think the result was fair or not, basically. So to start us off, if I do look over here, guys, it's because I've noted everything down on my other screen so that I can give you all the information that you need. So in terms of outgoing, so leaving the club, we have released one of the fitness coaches, which was the plan anyway. So we released Tom Murphy, and the reason that he was released was because of better options in the fitness area, which you'll see when we discuss the incoming staff. Now, in terms of personnel of players, we have TJ Bramble, who is a defensive midfielder. Now, he's a youngster that's come through the ranks. So he's in terms of our ranks at Gillingham, he is probably one of our most promising players. And he's gone on loan to Braintree, where it will be 60% of his wages that are paid. So as you can see here, he's 18 years old. He's currently on loan at Braintree. And his stats aren't exactly great, but he's got one of the higher potentials. But we all know from the first video, Gillingham does not have very good youth development facilities, is the word I'm looking for. Now, in terms of a player leaving the club that was on loan to us from Ipswich Town, was Jordan Roberts. Now, he was on loan to us, and the reason that I've released him is because I didn't feel that he was needed in the team. As you know, we play a narrow formation. His predominant position is attacking left midfield. He can also play striker, but we have other strikers anyway. So I don't feel like it would be fair on him to keep him at a club when he's not going to get a look in. So that's our outgoing players, guys. So in terms of incoming staff, we have Billy Dodds, who is our attacking coach when it wants to let me type. So we've brought him in as an attacking coach for Gillingham. As you can see, he's quite all round. So he's got the fitness element there. Um, he's also got the attacking and the discipline as well. His motivation isn't great, but I feel like everything else kind of balances that out. So we've brought him in on a contract of £875 per week, and he also gets a 15% wage rise if we get promoted, and obviously we will waive any club compensation if a managerial role comes up for Mr. Dodds. Moving into the defensive coach, we have Manuel Amoros. Now, if we just bring him up, it's not him. It's Manuel Amoros, Jake, which is this guy. Now, this guy is our defensive coach. So the hope here is that he can help us keep goals out. As you can see, he's got a bit better motivation, and his defending is a lot better. So that's going to be very handy for us. His determination isn't as high as the as Mr. Dodds, but it is what it is. You can't have everything, can you? So moving into the contract, he is on £850 per week with a 10% promotion wage rise, and again we'll waive any club compensation for any managerial role that comes in for Manuel. So then moving into the scouts. Now at the start of when we took over at Gillingham, we didn't have any scouts on the books at all. There was literally none. So we've brought in John Hale. Now he's only 47. He's got 14 on judging player ability and judging player potential, which is good at our level. So hopefully he's going to be able to help us in terms of identifying some players that we can bring in and help the squad. Now, if we look at his contract, he's on £775 per week with a 25% promotion wage rise. He actually wanted quite a bit as a wage, but I managed to knock it down. And he did want 30% wage rise, but I didn't have none of that. So that's the deal that we ended up with Mr. John Hale. Now, our other scout that we've brought in, if I can spell his name, is Colin Suggett. And I hate it when it does that because it's done it again. Colin Suggett. Okay, third time lucky, guys. So he is an older scout, so he's 70 years of age. Okay. Now the reason I've brought him in is he's got a bit of experience behind him. He knows what he's looking for. He's got 14 judging player ability and 15 player potential, so he can identify those players that we can bring in and sell on for the future, which is what part of our requirements was that Mr. Scally wanted us to achieve. He wanted us to bring in players under the age of 22. Okay, so I feel like Colin Suggett's going to help us achieve that. Now, in terms of contract for Mr. Suggett, he's on £775 per week, and I've basically matched the same as what John Hale is on. So there's no discrepancies between the two, as Mr. Suggett also gets, that was the keyboard, a 25% wage rise. Yeah, I may have caught the keyboard with my finger because I tend to do a lot of hand actions that you may or may not see on the camera. So that is why you may hear some banging here and there, because I may hit some things, okay? It happens. So moving in to the physios. Now, again, we had none of these when we joined the club. So this was literally starting afresh. But as you can see, we've brought in Ian McKinley, who has 19 physiotherapy, which is going to be great for us given the injuries that we've had, which you'll find out about. So hopefully these are going to help us not only reduce them, but prevent them. Okay, so the contract that we've brought Ian in on is £350 per week, nice and basic, jobs are good and for 2 years. Okay, no clauses, no bonuses, £350 a week, you're sorted. Then we brought in a second physio, Matt Brown, his name is. So this guy, again, has 19 physiotherapy, so he's going to be just as good as Ian McKinley, and hopefully that's going to help us. However, Matt Brown was a little bit more expensive, okay? Now, the initial physio that I wanted to get, basically, Paul Scally decided, you know what, you've got enough physios. We're not letting you. So I was like, okay, listen, Mr. Scally, we need another physio just to help us out, okay? And he said, do you know what, all right, I understand. So we then brought in Matt Brown because the other physio that we wanted didn't want to talk to us given the fact that we'd declined his job offer. So that is the staff that we've brought in. Okay, so moving in to the players that we've brought in. We've brought in some key areas here, I feel. Okay, so we're going to start with our backup player. So we've brought in Cole De Silva. Now, we know we were short on fullbacks. So we've brought this guy in. He can play left back, he can play right back. He's only on loan from Brentford, and he is only our backup player. So he's absolutely fine with his ability. As you can see, he's not quite as good as Barry Fuller, and he's not as good as Ogilvie or O'Connor. So we've brought him in on loan. We're paying 100% of his wages, which, as you can see, is a little bit. So it's 1,500 per week. Again, he's on loan. We can terminate it if we need to, and he cannot be recalled by the club. So we have him for as long as we need him. Now, the striker that we've brought in, as you may have seen, is Dan Unlundulu. Now, this guy's on loan from Southampton. I thought that his pace and kind of physical attributes were pretty all-rounded. He's got decent finishing. He's got decent heading. And he's not too bad in comparison to what we want. He's up there with Mr. Brandon Hanlon. Now, this guy, we brought him in on loan. Again, we are paying 100% of his wages. So that is £2,000 per week for Mr. Unlundulu. And so far in pre-season, he's only scored one goal. But hopefully he can get into the rhythm of things. He's joined a new club. It's a new setting. We've got to understand these things. Now, for the big one, Mr. Angel Gomez. Okay, this guy, I think a lot of people who play Football Manager know who this guy is. And a lot of people in the world, I think, are going to find out who this guy is. As you can see, he's valued at 11 million. That's big for a League One player. That is real big. So what I'm hoping with Angel Gomez, he's got a little bit of flair about him. Hopefully he's going to be able to create some opportunities, get out some tight situations, and play those strikers in with some killer balls. So he's got an assist and he's got a man of the match already in pre-season. So hopefully that's going to bode well for him. Now the good thing with Angel Gomez is obviously his wages were quite high. So we've managed to bring him in and only pay 20% of his wages. So we are only paying 3k per week, which actually is good for us because, as you can imagine, he's on a fair whack at Manchester United. But at attacking midfield, as you can see, he is the best one that we have at the club or on the club's books, however you want to word it. Okay, so now, moving into the results. So, as you can see here, we didn't get off to a great start against the under-18s. Mr. Ronnie Nelson, the ball was played over the top from a free kick from Ben Allen. That's who played it over. And Ronnie Nelson, the centre-back, I believe he is, managed to tuck the ball into the net. He's only 15. And we managed to lose that game 1-0. Then moving into Farnborough away. This was a game which was quite enjoyable. As you can see, we smashed them a little bit. We won 5-0. We had Connor Ogilvie on the score sheet. Brandon Hanlon got a brace in this game. John Akinde got a goal. And Michael Mandron come off the bench to score around the 80th minute mark. I think it was around the 87th mark, as you can see there. Then we moved to Maidenhead, away from home. This was a tighter game, only finished 1-0. And this is where the new guys came in Angel Gomez and Dan Unlundulu. And as you can see, Unlundulu was on the score sheet in this game and got the only goal to get us the winner in the 70th minute. So far, so good in these two. We seem to have turned around form. Then we hit Salford City. This game wasn't a pleasure to watch. We were very poor. Defensively, we were shocking. And Salford just took advantage of that. I mean, we all know Salford City are on the up anyway. They've got a reputation for, where they're going to head, and they're apparently going to be this big team. And I wish them well. However, I don't appreciate it when they beat us. But yeah, in this game, we had Angel Gomez in the squad. We had Nlundulu still. Um, this was the game where we first dropped Alfie Jones from centre defensive mid, tried O'Keefe and brought in Henry Woods in the midfield. And it didn't quite work out for us. And we lost 2-0. Then a game where I expected us to lose. I expected a tough game against Cardiff City. Um, they're a championship side. And I expected us to lose. This game wasn't pretty again, but it was a better performance than what we performed against Salford. But Cardiff just had they had the quality, so they beat us 2-0. Then the final friendly we moved into was at home against NAC Breda, where we won 1-0. Brandon Hanlon on the score sheet in this one. And this was the first game where Cole De Silva came in as Barry Fuller had a knock. Cole De Silva came in against Cardiff, because Barry Fuller had a knock, but he performed fairly well. So I left him in against NAC Breda. So this was a better performance. Obviously, I would expect to beat this team. But yeah, it was a better performance. And as you can see, Angel Gomez got player of the match in this game. I believe he assisted Hanlon from a corner. So we're at the point in the season now where the next video will be moving into the league games. And the first 3 games which we'll be playing is against Doncaster Rovers away from home, Burton Albion at home, and Brentford in the Carabao Cup at home. And if I quickly go to find the draw that we had in the leasing trophy, this is our group. So we have Colchester, Crystal Palace under 23s, and Walsall. Now, I would like to think that we can either top this group or at least come second. Okay, I think we can do better than Walsall. I think we can do better than Colchester. However, Crystal Palace under 23s may have something over us. It depends who they play. So just moving into the parent club. Now, we asked the board for a parent club, in which they came back and said, yes, that's a fantastic idea. However, we can't find one. So they looked and they came back saying that they couldn't find one. That was a bit of a letdown. I was hoping to bring in some players from a parent club. It's a little bit of revenue for us as well, but it wasn't to be. Now, the big news that we've got is we've got 2 big injuries to the squad already, guys. So, as you can see, Jack Bonham, who is the number 1, is actually injured with shin splints for 6 to 9 weeks. We've sent him to a specialist to hopefully get him in quicker. But this isn't exactly what we wanted to go into the first game of the season. So I believe, unless we've managed to get someone in, it will be Joe Walsh, who is a very, very good upcoming keeper. He's only 17 years old. He's got 4 to 5 star potential. So, he might do a job. He might not do a job. But he's going to have to step in. But we have put a loan offer in. And I believe it's been accepted let me just double check. So yes, it's been accepted. So we put a loan offer in for Thomas Mahias. Hopefully, we're going to be able to bring him in as soon as possible to step in for Jack Bonham in those weeks where he's out injured. Now, the second big injury that we have is Mr. John Akinde. Now, he's out for 2 to 4 months with a hip injury. Again, he's gone to a specialist. He's a big player in this squad. And yeah, it was a bit of a blow to receive the news for Mr. John Akinde being injured. But we have enough depth in the strikers, I believe, with Nlundulu, Michael Mandron, and Brandon Hanlon. I feel like they're all going to be able to do a job for us, especially bringing in the attacking coach. Hopefully, it's all going to come together. We're going to be able to score some goals, keep the goals out, and hopefully, we're going to do well. So, guys, that is pretty much a recap as to where we're at. Hopefully, we're going to go into the season strong. The preseason was a bit of a mixed bag, and we've brought in some key improvements. So, into the next episode, guys, into episode 3, we'll have 3 to 4 games for you, which will be the Doncaster Rovers, Burton Albion, Brentford, and potentially Blackpool, depending on what goes on, depending on the length of the video. I want to try and keep them all around 20 to 25 minutes for you all, so you're not having kind of, really lengthy videos to watch. But I do appreciate every single one of you watching whatever you can. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. And also, leave a comment down below. Did we do good business? Did we bring in the right staff? What do you think? And also, let me know what you think of how we handled pre-season. Did we win the games we expected to win? Or do you think we could have done better? I want to see your predictions in the chat. I'm so used to Twitch. I want to see your predictions in the comments below as to where we're going to finish in the league as well. So again, I really appreciate your time, everyone, for taking your time to watch this video. It's been a pleasure. Again, make sure to subscribe, share this video everywhere you can, and yeah, I'll see you all in the next episode.